Greetings and welcome back to Association Matters Europe Inside series on this official PCAAE podcast for conversations on governance, leadership, and impact in the association sector. We are your host. I'm Bobby.
And I'm Emily. The title of this fourth and final episode in our Europe Insight series is Association Management in Europe, Legal, Economic and Technology Trends. In this episode, we will examine how European associations operate within complex legal frameworks while leveraging technology and adapting to economic realities.
So our guest is Liesbeth Switten, Secretary General of the Association of Issuing Bodies and Vice President and Board Member of the European Society of Association Executives based in Brussels.
Lisbon has more than 15 years of experience in renewable energy certification and international association management. With a background in law, environmental law, urbanisation and international association management, she started her career in international law firms before joining the Flemish energy regulator. At AIB, she became Secretariat General in 2020. Within ESAE, she leads work on leadership and professionalism, including the relaunch of the Executive Masters in International Association Management, organised by ESAE, all the acronyms, and powered by Solvay Business School.
Excellent bio, Lisbeth. So thank you again for joining us today. So let's start our conversation. Our first question to you is, from your end there in Brussels, what legal considerations are unique to European associations?
Thank you for having me first, Bobby and Emily. It's really a pleasure to be here. Well, I think the distinctive thing about Europe is that it often looks like one region from the outside, but in practice, it's never just one legal or governance system. A European association may be based in Brussels, have members in 30 countries, run events across Europe, work with suppliers outside the EU, and respond to EU legislation at the same time. So the leader of that association is constantly working across layers, EU rules, national law, different governance cultures, and very different member realities. So that's what makes Europe, I think, interesting, but also demanding. And that's what is perhaps different from other regions, I think, where associations may operate mainly within one national framework. So in Europe, the legal framework is more like a patchwork, and the skill is first to understand that patchwork and then to help the association and the members navigate it in a practical and coherent way. In my association, AIB, for example, we work with members and national systems for energy certification across Europe. So we see every day the importance of how to combine a shared European framework with respect for national implementation. And the role of the association is often there to create coherence, harmonization, without pretending that all national realities are the same. And I think that same layering appears in everyday association management in Europe. Take data protection, GDPR, for example. It's not a privacy policy on a website. It affects how we manage member databases, event registrations, mailing lists, and increasingly AI tools. If an association uses AI, for example, to summarize a meeting or to analyze member feedback, we need to ask, what data are we using? Where is it stored? Who has access to it? And what safeguards do we need? And then there's also, apart from that, the governance. European associations often have boards with different national backgrounds, different expectations of how decisions should be made. So in this respect, good governance, good board governance, but also association governance is not just about having the rules, but it's about clarity, transparency, proper documentation, conflict management rules, and really helping the board navigate in the interest of the association as a whole. And I think that's where legal awareness becomes part of leadership. Association executives do not need to become lawyers, but they do need enough legal and governance literacy to ask the right questions, to involve the right experts, and to build systems that members can trust. So for me, that's exactly why international association management has become a profession in its own right, the profession of international association manager. We're not just organizing meetings anymore or managing memberships. We're really leading complex cross-border organizations where legal awareness, governance, data, finance, technology, and trust all come together. That would be, in a nutshell, my reply to this first question.
Wow. I mean, layering is the key word, right? I mean, you have so many layers, and wow, that's very interesting. And I think it makes your job more complex. So, Emily?
Yes, it definitely sounds like there has to be a strong level of trust happening there, obviously, and association leaders have to wear many hats in this day and age. So thank you for those insights. Our next question is, how is technology transforming association management in Europe, and how are associations leveraging it for maybe member engagement and to their benefit?
Yeah, like all over the world, technology is changing and association management in a very practical way also in Europe. It's really changing, I think, the operating model of associations. For a long time, we see that many associations were built around a few major moments in the year: the annual conference, the general assembly, board meetings, working groups. Those moments still exist, they're still very important, but now technology allows associations to be much more continuous. Engagement no longer needs to start and stop with an event. It can continue throughout the year through webinars, digital learning, member platforms, targeted newsletters, or even what we see these days, dedicated mobile association apps. And that's, I think, a real shift. Of course, good associations have never been only broadcasters, but technology allows us to listen, connect, and respond, I think, at a different scale now. Technology reinforces these deep, meaningful human connections that we all need to thrive. It helps us understand the member needs earlier, bring the right people together, and turn engagement into more relevant services. In Europe, technology also helps us work across borders. Many associations serve members in different countries, languages, time zones, and regulatory contexts. Digital tools obviously make it easier to include people who cannot always travel, to keep conversations alive in between physical meetings, and to create more tailored forms of participation. We see this very much at my own association, where we have hybrid meetings always. So we always make sure that there is technology that assists us in making this connection with our members. Or another very concrete example on technology is our current cybersecurity project we do at AIB, where we are working to bring the association in line with NIS2 regulatory expectations and ISO cybersecurity standards. For me, that shows how digital transformation is no longer only about better tools, but also about resilience, accountability, protecting the trust members place in the association. Yeah, and then obviously there's AI, no way around it. AI will accelerate this even further. Associations are already using AI to summarize meetings, analyze feedback, support communications, etc. And for small secretariat teams, this is very powerful because it creates capacity that did not exist before. However, I would be careful there. Technology should not make associations more distant. It should make them more attentive and keep the human tone. Because if we only automate, we may become more efficient but less relevant. I think that the real leadership question is not which AI tool should we buy. It is how does this help members feel heard, connected, and supported. And then compared to other regions, Europe has its own digital rhythm. In parts of Asia, I think you often see very fast mobile-first digital adoption. And in the US, you may have access to larger scale platforms and a strong commercial technology ecosystem, whereas European associations also innovate. But innovation has to work across borders, languages, data rules, and different expectations of trust. So that's why I see this digital transformation as a part of the professionalization that I mentioned before. Association leaders do not need to become IT specialists, but again, we do need to understand data, AI, cybersecurity, digital engagements, and the ethics well enough to lead responsibly. So all in all, I think technology is transforming European associations into continuous knowledge and engagement communities. And the best associations will use technology not to replace relationships, but to deepen this member value, this trust within the association, which is so important in our sector.
I definitely think when utilized in the right way, that technology will only make way for more human connection, which I think with all the distraction and demand for our attention with technology these days will only be more craved by humans as time goes on. So that's a really good point.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. We always need that human factor combined with that digital insight, that digital growth that is obviously needed to navigate the waves of this day and age.
Yes, very enlightening insight, Lisbeth. So our third and final question is, what do you think? What trends will shape European associations in the next 5 years? And what do you think management practices can associations in Asia and elsewhere learn from Europe?
Yeah, looking at Europe, I see three trends, and I think the next 5 years will test associations quite seriously, frankly. The first is complexity. Associations are no longer operating in a stable environment. We deal with geopolitical uncertainty, fast-moving technology, new regulations, sustainability expectations, changing member needs, and what we really observe is a pressure on resources. So association leaders need to become better at prioritizing, making decisions in gray zones, helping diverse members find common ground to move forward, building that solid association strategy. And this is something Europe has had to practice for a long time, obviously, because we work across so many countries, languages, legal systems, and cultures. And I think perhaps one useful lesson from Europe is that consensus does not always mean waiting until everyone fully agrees, but it means creating enough shared understanding to move forward responsibly along the lines of that association strategy. And I think that's a very practical management skill that's needed. A second trend I see is what I mentioned earlier, the responsible digital transformation, especially AI. AI is changing how associations work, from analyzing member feedback and preparing meetings, etc., to creating more personalized services, and that's all great. But in Europe, the conversation is not just about this digital transformation, about speed. It's again also about trust, data protection, cybersecurity, and importantly, the human judgment. So the management lesson there on this responsible digital transformation would be start small, but lead it properly. Use pilots, train your team, agree what data can and cannot be used with cybersecurity legislation and GDPR in the background. Keep humans in the loop always, and for associations managing critical digital systems or sensitive member data, frameworks such as the NIS2 and ISO cybersecurity standards are becoming part of responsible leadership, not just IT compliance. And then the third trend I see is further professionalization. Association management has now really become a profession in its own right, and today's association executives, as I said, need to understand governance, strategy, finance, digital transformation, risk, leadership, creating value, etc. So that's why I personally am very committed to this relaunch of the Executive Masters in International Association Management next year. It's organized by ESAE and powered by the Solvay Business School in Brussels. And for me, this reflects a broader shift. If associations are expected to deal with more complex issues, then the people leading them need stronger professional tools, better education, and trusted peer networks. And here I would also be careful not to suggest that Europe has all the answers. I mean, Asian associations often move fast, are very entrepreneurial, and have a strong community energy, but Europe can share useful practices around cross-border governance, consensus building, responsible digital transformation, and that professional development we see. So if I had to summarize the next 5 years, I would say associations will need to become more strategic, more digitally confident, and even more professionally led. The organizations that thrive will be those that combine technology with trust, agility with governance, and member engagement with clear long-term strategy and purpose.
Wow, that's again many takeaways, Lisbeth. So, Emily, your own summation, please.
Yeah, you've just wrapped that up beautifully. So I'll try and add my 3 key takeaways. There was so much in this call today, so thank you so much for your insights and your time. I hope I do this justice. Key takeaway number 1 for me out of that was trust and transparency is a really valuable asset. That one of the things that really stood out is that European associations are operating in an increasingly complex environment with regulations, data privacy requirements, cybersecurity expectations, and as you touched on, members spread across different countries, different languages, different cultures. That trust element doesn't happen by accident. It comes from good governance, transparency, and systems that members can rely on. For associations everywhere, trust is not just a governance issue, it's very much a strategic asset, I think, is what I'm hearing. Takeaway number 2 is technology should strengthen relationships, not replace them. So we want to increase that human touch and have these tools support that. I think it's easy to get caught up in the latest technology and AI tools, and they are wonderful and have their place. I'm a big advocate for them, but the most successful associations are using technology to create more meaningful engagement, not less. They are listening to their members, personalizing their communications, delivering that year-round learning, and making it easier for members to participate, particularly remotely. The lesson is around that technology is powerful when it helps members feel more connected, supported, and more valued. And takeaway number 3 is the role of the association executive is changing rapidly and is expanding. So association management is becoming really a profession in its own right. And today's leaders are expected to understand a range of things: governance, strategy, finance, technology, cybersecurity, AI, member engagement. It all goes on, but they're expected to know it all at the same time. And like you said, they don't have to be experts in these areas, but having enough understanding to ask the right questions and be across it is very important. So the associations that will thrive over the next 5 years will be the ones that invest not only in technology, but in developing of their people, I'm hearing there. So that strong leadership, continuous learning, and a clear sense of purpose will be just as important as new platforms and tools.
Excellent,
Exactly.
as always, Emily. And again, thank you, Liesbeth, for gracing our podcast today. Thank you for sharing your insights. And for the audience, thank you for joining us in Association Matters, where governance, leadership, and impact come together. We believe that when associations thrive, societies rise. So this podcast is brought to you by the Philippine Council of Association and Association Executives, members, AMS, and pricing for associations.
Subscribe to our podcast and visit the PCAAE website for updates and full episode notes. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you, Liesbeth.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.